This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals here on this Tuesday. Now joined by Josh Hemholdt, Rivals National Football Recruiting Analyst. Hey, Josh, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Got Todd Leary with us here as well. Indiana, during this weird time, but they've not slowed down recruiting-wise, especially offensive line-wise, man. They've really been throwing the beef on there.
Yeah, well, hey, it all starts up front, right? If you can't secure that offensive line, it's going to be a hard time building championship ball clubs. So, Tom Allen, they know what they're doing with how they want to recruit and build that program.
Yeah, it's been kind of neat to watch them expand their footprint recruiting wise, especially a program that has no tradition or whatnot. But to see them go up to places like Michigan up north but down south and to some of these fertile recruiting grounds, it shows that while they're not up, we're not talking about them in the same light as Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, of course, but they're trying to get there or at least up into that competitive level.
Oh, what I've always preached is as a ball club, you've got to be able to, build that foundation with your home state talent or your backyard talent. They did that. First three, I think, commitments in this 21 class are all state of Indiana guys, and then go out and cherry pick those guys nationally that you think you have a shot at. That's going to build cohesiveness within your locker room when you start with guys that are, know your traditions and have pride in that program from an early age and know what it means to be a part of your tradition. And then, be able to pick up some of that national talent. And I think they've been able to do that for the entirety of Tom Allen's tenure there.
Yeah, and to see football is such a different beast than, say, basketball. It is so hard to turn a program around because of the time, the size, and all of that. But in this day and age of college football where we see monsters at the top, and there's a distinctive difference between those teams up there and then everybody else trying to get to that middle ground. Indiana just trying to get to that middle ground. How tough is it when you've got to sit in a conference, in a division with Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, just in your own division?
Yeah, though obviously when you're looking at teams like, Ohio State's recruiting on a level like almost nobody else in the country is right now. And they are so far out ahead of where the rest of, even SEC schools are in this 21 class. So, that's definitely, when you have to go against that every single day. But then, like you mentioned, you got Penn State out there. James Franklin, in my personal interactions with head coaches, is the best recruiting head coach I've encountered. Just the way he's able to relate to people and to make people feel like they're the only person in the room. He's got that gift of being a great recruiting head coach. And, there's definitely challenges there, but you have the ability as Indiana to be able to, take advantage of a growing talent base in state. And I think they're definitely doing that. The state of Indiana, from where I started covering it a decade ago in terms of talent production, is definitely on the uptick, and that's going to benefit all the teams in state, but particularly Indiana.
Yeah, back in the day, I think it was acceptable for a long time for Indiana to not have a good football program because it's a quote unquote basketball state and basketball school and all that. But today, there's simply too much money out there to not have a viable Division I program. When you're in a big conference like the Big Ten with the TV and all that, they're forced to do this now. They are catching up, but man, it's tough to go against those teams. But what they have coming back, I'm excited to see what Indiana's going to be like next year.
Yeah, you think back, and like you mentioned, the focus was basketball for so long. But you think about when an Antoine Randall was there and the excitement that he brought to campus and the excitement that when you have a team that on any given Saturday can play with the best in your conference, that's an exciting thing. That's hard to duplicate in any other sport.
Yeah, well, a great sign right now is currently the football coach is earning more than the basketball coach, which I don't know has ever happened at Indiana, but that's currently the state. So there's a sign of things are slightly changing right there.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'll tell you what, I think he's earned it. I mean, he's building for the future. He's building long term. And you look at when Kevin Wilson was there, he was able to, get Indiana thinking a little bit differently about recruiting. He was able to bring 4 stars in. Indiana had not been recruiting 4 stars previous to that. And now you're seeing kind of year after year, you're starting to get those 4-star guys. Rashawn Williams last year, they're in the ballpark for Donovan McCulley, who I think is definitely, is one of the most underappreciated recruits in the entire country for how talented he is out of Indianapolis. And you got a guy like, Cooper Jones, who's, on that 4-star cusp. So, I mean, they're recruiting big-time talent and starting to build for that future.
Yeah, to me, the next, move they have to make or goal they have to accomplish, they have to start keeping the big-time in-state talent in-state. They're still going to Ohio States and to other places. That's the next move for me. They've got to get those big guys because, like you said, Indiana's not Texas or Ohio, but every state produces. There are some top talent that comes out.
Absolutely, and it is. I mean, like I said, the state is on an uptick talent-wise, and surprisingly, now Notre Dame has the top-ranked kid in this class, is in Avon, Indiana, offensive tackle Blake Fisher, but Notre Dame doesn't spend a lot of time recruiting in-state, and usually they were the top 2 to 3 kids they used to have, kind of locked up for a period of time there. They're not doing that, and so they're kind of almost leaving it open for an Ohio State who's come in. Iowa came in last year. Penn State went in and got the defensive tackle out of Carmel. So there's definitely more competition, but there's more talent there too, and it's a rising tide raises all ships, and certainly it's going to raise the ship of the in-state, the flagship in-state program.
But Jim, that also goes back to what you and I have talked about, throughout the season with the football team is they're not going to continue to get the top recruits in the state until they go beat the Ohio States and the Penn States. And it's been such a long time since that's happened that, I think that as great a recruiter as Tom Allen is, I don't think that they're going to accomplish keeping the top kids in the state at home. And I mean like the top offensive and defensive linemen and the guys who, the Ohio States and Alabamas go pluck out of any state they want to. I don't think they're going to keep those guys until they figure out a way to beat them. And once they do that, the floodgate will open. They'll be able to sign anybody.
Certainly, and top kids want to play with other top kids, and top kids want to play for championships. There's some guys out there who, they're just trying to get in best fit for themselves academically, athletically. But the guys at the top of the heap, they want to play in New Year's Day bowls. They want to play for conference championships. They want to be in Lucas Oil at the end of the season and, contending for the Big Ten title. So, no doubt, winning begets more winning and begets, getting the top guys winning on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, Indiana starts off the season next year, hopefully, again on the road at Wisconsin, a game that would normally strike fear in probably a lot of Hoosier fans' hearts. But man, I think a lot of people are looking forward to that game. There's expectations for once for this team as they head into the season with Michael Penix at the helm. If he can stay healthy, this team, there's no telling what they can actually accomplish.
It'll be interesting. That's one of those games that can signal, I think Minnesota got off to a big start last year, and all of a sudden they got some national buzz. You win, you go into Camp Randall, and you win that first game, the season. That's going to start some national buzz and get some attention for your program, which, by the way, obviously helps recruiting as well. And, people are talking about you down there in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and out east, and places that, Indiana's trying to get out to and recruit.
Josh, any names that you're hearing that I know you don't focus solely on Indiana, but that are out there that Indiana has a shot at that may be a surprise or a boost to their recruiting efforts?
Well, like I said, I think the top guy on the board has to be Donovan McCulley. I mean, he is so talented. The times I've spent around him, yeah, he's a dual threat guy. He absolutely has that ability to pick up yards with his feet, but his arm is outstanding, exceptional. He can hit. He can make every throw on the field, and he has the ability to, fit the ball into places that other programs just aren't even trying, or just other quarterbacks just aren't even going to try to throw to. Honestly, you still have that ability to in-state really kind of focus on these top guys. Kyron Montgomery's a defensive end out of Pike in Indiana or Indianapolis. I mean, he's a top talent. They've got Cooper Jones and I know Austin Booker over there at Center Grove is a big-time target for them now that they lost the Rodney McGraw kid over to Penn State. So I think Booker is probably the guy to watch short-term, although we don't know when Donovan McCulley's going to announce. He has a top 5. IU's a part of that. Purdue's a part of that. But so is Ole Miss. So is Missouri. You got a couple of SEC programs in there. That's kind of what I'm looking for if I'm a Hoosier fan here coming up.
The Big Ten overall, they certainly have not missed much. Ohio State, of course, probably one of, if not the top recruiting class, one of the recruiting classes coming back. But the Big Ten, strong year last year. What do you think in this season, once we get started, what the Big Ten is going to look like?
I mean, on the field?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tough. I mean, certainly it's going to be. I think everybody just wants to see football on the field in the fall. And, the analysis is kind of how does this affect certain teams? I think obviously younger teams are gonna have a harder time adjusting without getting that spring football. Yeah, you might get your 6 weeks before the season, but these teams operate on a year-round calendar. When you lose a couple of months, 3 months, who knows how long it will end up being, you're going to have some issues. So the established teams, obviously a team like Ohio State with Justin Fields coming back, yeah, there's a reason why they're picked to have a great season, and I think this probably separates the contenders from the pretenders in the conference even more, especially those young teams that really needed this offseason.
How's this? Well, there is no answer to this question, but the potential. How potentially can you imagine how this is going to the COVID-19 and this season? The national champion. There's going to be differences this year. It's going to be does this year's national champion get an asterisk?
I don't know. I think that's a conversation we'll have to talk about after the season, and we really don't have the when we have the benefit of hindsight and be able to look back and say, how much did this really impact it? I think long term, no, it's not going to have an asterisk, but it definitely is going to change the way the game is played, and it's definitely going to change, like you said. I mean, maybe who's in that national championship game and how the season plays out because of the challenges affecting some teams more than others.
Josh Hemholdt from Rivals, National Football Recruiting Analyst. Anything you got you need to promote that we need to send out there?
No, I'll tell you what, we're the only show in town right now because recruiting just never stops, and it's been going pretty hectic here. I mean, I cooked dinner for my wife and my mother on Mother's Day, and also broke 3 commitment stories, so it's been a pretty hectic time.
I'm sure that's a proud Mother's Day. Yeah, that's the one thing that has not slowed down. I mean, thank goodness. But it's weirder, but there's just a lot more information out there, and we appreciate you staying on the forefront of it, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Josh Hemholdt from Rivals, I can't thank you enough. We appreciate you here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary. We've got a lot more coming up. Chronic Hoosier is going to join us next here on the program. Stay tuned. We're back with that and more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Back right after this. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.